Good morning. Happy Thursday. Hope you're all doing well. I got a busy day. I gotta get surgery in an hour and a half. Anyway, that's here nor there. Get my health back together. But I wanted to let you know I won't be on tomorrow. I don't think tomorrow's going to be a very fun day for me. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully everything goes well. It's 3R Thursday. We're talking about refinement, reviews, and retros. And today I want to kind of continue on. Last week we talked about that, and you can see where I scribbled it. Looks like a typical whiteboard, right? Something left on there for a week and starting to ink up. And talk about turning those refinement, reviews, and retros into habits with your team. And it's so important to do so. Someone may, no, it's not, but it really makes their lives easier and more simple, right? Because one of our missions is to not work so hard to produce the value we need. And the way you don't work so hard is you turn things into habits. So it's a 5 a.m. Mester Scrum show. I am Greg Mester, Scrum Master and Agile Coach. And here we talk about Scrum and Agile in a very practical and tactical way. So you can bring value to your customer, not work very hard for that value, or not work super hard for that value, and have a little fun along the way. And last night, Rob Jackson talked about product management. Dave's talked more about our coaching experience and mentoring experience than I was expecting, but it was a pleasant surprise. Let me know I'm very grateful for that, for his compliments on what we did. And of course, I don't know where my phone is. But he did a good job. The beginning was kind of like crazy. I did record it. I haven't had a chance to go over the recordings yet to cut it back and make a podcast out, but I will probably this weekend while I'm all laid up in bed or not doing anything. I don't know. We'll see how the weekend goes. I have no idea. All I know is they moved up my schedule from the evening to the morning, and I'm like, oh God, there goes my morning. I had planned to do a lot of things. So always things come up. But let's get back to what we're talking about today, the habits, these time boxes, right? Put in these time boxes for sprint planning, daily Scrum reviews, retros like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. Some say you need a rule where you need to be there for the whole time. And I'm like, I don't think you have to. I think you can split these up into smaller blocks if you really need to. Maybe call them different things. But what I will say is I don't think you should do less time than is suggested for these events. For example, sprint retro, if you have a 2 hours is kind of a long time to do stuff. Maybe you break it up in two different things. Maybe you make it two different types of retros. But it's very important to have a cadence to it and make it into a habit. I was listening to Leela Hormozy, who works with Alex Hormozy, who's trying to make these big businesses. And she was really big on getting a company cadence for meetings and having that for people so they know when things are. It's not a surprise. It's not like closing down stuff. And I totally agree with her from a Scrum perspective. It's amazing how she's coming up from her business. She's I don't even know if she's 30 yet, but she's worth over $100 million. And she says how important that is. And I'm like, the same thing applies to Scrum. And the reason why we want to do that cadence is we want to make everything into a habit, right? So there's really not a lot of thought and energy put in, oh, I got to go to do this. Oh, I got to do that. It just becomes part of the daily cadence. The habit is expected. It's like if you don't have one, you're like, are we supposed to be doing this today? Why aren't we doing that? And getting into that point where it's a normal thought process and there's not a lot of extra work applied. Why we do extra work to apply and make it happen. And I'll give you an example. Let's talk about reviews. Now, I put in there for a 3-week review, you do an hour and a half, right? Well, there's nothing wrong with doing a 2-part review or having it on more than 1 day, but as long as you make it a cadence, it's fine. Like maybe you want to do a tech review, take part of that hour and a half and do a half-hour tech review where it's just a team where they review new technologies, new tips, new tricks that each other have done. And then later on, you do an hour-long one with the customer. So maybe you do a half hour one in the morning on the last day of the sprint, and you do an hour long with the stakeholders, or you're switching around, whatever time the stakeholders available, because they're always the hardest people to get a hold of. But make it into a cadence where you do that so that people know what's expected. And I really like this idea of making a little technical review to help the team get better at their craft. They really like their craft. So why not do a craft-based review so they can learn from each other, right? So, but I don't want you to lose it and say, oh, well, the stakeholders are only available for a half hour, so we're just going to do a half hour review. And that's fine for that. But take some of that time and do other things. Be creative in how you use these cadences. Be creative in how you do the retro. Maybe there's a group retro, right? If you do an hour and a half, maybe there's a specific topic that you as Scrum Masters or somebody brought up that you really want to focus on it. Maybe you take some time, like a half hour, go through all the things that went through, and then you take another half hour and just retro on a particular item that needs to be addressed. Maybe there's something that the team brings up. Maybe you make part of the retro. I mean, when you say it's all about the team, it's true. But maybe from a Scrum Master point of view, maybe there's a retro topic that the Scrum Master would like to work from a process perspective. So maybe there's a retro on how the team wants to do what they want to do. Maybe there's a little retro on a process retro. So you can change that up a little bit. So there's nothing wrong with doing a process retro. But let's be clear, you don't want to take the retrospective away from the team and make it all about process. Because I'll be honest with you, that could be boring, right? They like to talk about their trade, their skills, what they want to do. Well, some do, some don't, some hide. But it's one of those ways you can change it up a little bit. So I wanted to share that with you and also let you know that I will not be here tomorrow doing a show. So, because God knows where I'm going to, well, hopefully I'm just laying in bed somewhere. But I wanted to share that with you as some ways to think about. It doesn't have to be draconian on these time boxes and when they do it, but be creative in how you do it. There's nothing in the book says you can't be creative in how you do these events. It's time, but it is important you develop a cadence that if it looks like it's going to work, that you try it for a while. Maybe you suggest do a half hour retro for process and process alone. And then the other part of the retro would be what they want to do, how they want to improve what they do, and how they, interact or something like that. That half hour retro in the beginning might be just valuable for when you're teaching Scrum. And maybe it goes away after a while and gets sucked into other things, right? Maybe there's a two-part aspect of it. So I wanted to share that with you. Don't be pigeonholed into what you do for the Scrum time boxes, especially for refinement and retros and reviews. And also with refinement, I suggest people have, I suggest how much time. It doesn't mean it has to be in one block. Maybe it's half hour increments. Maybe you do a half hour twice a week or something like that for refinement, just to get into that cadence. And every time at 10 o'clock, we do a refinement session for a half hour, and I'll bring up the stories or the epics that we want to break down, or the product owner will, and we'll go over them, right? So, or maybe one is internal from a technical refinement perspective, and maybe another one is a stakeholder refinement, right? So you could do that too. So that's an option as well. So think about that as you get ready for that. And it's terrible. Can't eat anything for like the whole since yesterday. So it's fun prep. Anyway, I want to wish you all the best. Have a great day. Happy scrumming. Take care. And we'll see you next week, Monday. Hope everything be good. And again, thank Rob Jackson for presenting at our meetup.com. And we have that group. So I'm making it available for people to join if they want to present stuff, get some creds in their resume and stuff like that, or share some topics, or use the meetup group to present something they want to present to their team and get some feedback on it and see what it's like. Feel free to do that too. So again, happy scrumming. See you later. Have a great day. And we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye.